Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Jenny Halpin, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Leanna Craig. 2026 marks 125 years of dedicated service by the Australian Army and its predecessors. Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Douglas Kelley. This evening, we warmly welcome the delegation from the Joint Warrant Officer course from the Australian Defence Force College, the delegation from Heritage, Commemorations and Protocol from the New Zealand Defence Force and the Department of Veterans Affairs, the delegation from Toll Aviation, and the delegation from 5th, 6th Platoon, Alpha Company, 1st Recruit Training Battalion, visiting from Kapooka in New South Wales. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Lowther Hall Anglican Grammar School visiting from Essendon in Victoria. Now, if you are able, could I please invite you to stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free, with golden soil and wealth for toil. Our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Students and those who require a seat, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Douglas Kelley. Douglas Kelley was born on the 9th of September 1908 in Macarthur, Victoria, the son of Joseph and Ellen Kelley. He grew up in Macarthur, where he worked as a labourer until he enlisted for service in the Second World War on the 16th of July 1940. Kelley joined a training battalion and began initial training. In November, he was transferred to the 2nd 29th Battalion, the last Australian Imperial Force Infantry Brigade to be raised for service during the war. The men of the 2nd 29th trained at Bonegilla before travelling to Bathurst at the end of February 1941. They remained at Bathurst until the end of July, when the battalion sailed to Singapore, arriving in mid-August. In the second week of September, the 2nd 29th travelled to Segament in Malaya, where it continued training. It would soon put what it had learned into practice. The effects were soon apparent for Private Douglas Kelley, who was injured on the 22nd of October 1941, suffering from a strained back after carrying logs to construct a bridge across a creek. There would be little respite for Kelley. Japanese forces landed at Singora and Patani in Thailand and Kota Baru in northern Malaya just before midnight on the 7th of December. By mid-January, they had reached the Muir River in northern Johor. The area was defended by an inexperienced and poorly trained Indian brigade, so the 2nd 29th and the 2nd 19th battalions were sent as reinforcements. The 2nd 29th reached Bakri in mid-January and assumed defensive positions. The Japanese attacked the next day. The fighting was fierce, but the battalion and the 2nd 4th Anti-Tank Regiment destroyed several Japanese tanks. In the meantime, the 2nd 19th had arrived at Parrot Salong, to the south, having fought its way through the Japanese who were beginning to encircle the 2nd 29th. The 2nd 19th attacked along Muir Road and held a crossroad long enough for the 2nd 29th and the Indian units to withdraw. The Japanese had already outflanked the 2nd 19th as the Australians and the Indians began to withdraw towards Parrot Salong. Harried from the rear and the air, the force fought its way through a Japanese roadblock before reaching the outskirts of Parrot Salong, only to discover that the village and their only avenue of withdrawal, the bridge spanning the Simpangkiri River, were in Japanese hands. On the morning of the 22nd of January, Senior Surviving Officer Lieutenant Colonel Charles Anderson ordered his men to break out through the jungle. During the battle and retreat, more than 300 Australians died. In the aftermath of the battle, nearly 150 severely wounded Australian and Indian soldiers, including Private Douglas Kelley, were left together at Parrot Salong under the charge of Captain Rui Snelling, who indicated their willingness to surrender to the advancing Japanese. Late on the afternoon of the 22nd of January 1942, the prisoners were forced outside, machine-gunned, doused with petrol and set alight. 3 men survived the massacre by feigning death. They later made their escape with the help of the local Malayan and Chinese communities. One of the survivors, Lieutenant Ben Hackney, later gave evidence at the war crimes trial of Lieutenant General Takuma Nishimura, who was accused of ordering the massacre at the Parrot Salong Bridge. Nishimura was found guilty and hanged in 1951. Among those massacred was Douglas Kelley. He was 33 years old. Today, he is commemorated at the Singapore Memorial. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. we now remember Private Douglas Kelley, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.